And from what I heard, the reason why they called it a trailer in the first place was because they used to be at the end of movies. People would still wait till after the movie to see what's coming out soon. So they used to have them. That's what they were called trailers, because they were after. They showed them after the movie. Can you imagine in a world like that where people would actually sit that long? Because people can't sit there.
Well, there was a difference. You had to have your credits at the beginning of the movie. Part of the regulations at the time was everybody who worked hard on the film got their name mentioned in the first of the film, and you usually weren't seated once the film started, so you had to sit through the credits no matter what, so that everybody got their recognition, and then the movie would just usually the end, and then that's it. And so it was like, what can we fill that time with? And so they would start showing previews for coming attractions, which we now refer to as trailers. And then that was during the late silent era through most of the 30s. But once they started putting in newsreels, cartoons, short comedies, before the feature, before the matinee, then they started putting the previews along with it. So they haven't been trailers for 3 decades longer than they ever were trailers, but for some reason that's just the name that's stuck.
Well, because it's funny, because it's just a little bit insight on this. In the 80s when we were growing up, they called them previews. They didn't call them at least in my experience.
Well,
they didn't call them trailers until what?
In the industry, they were still referred to as trailers, but the public, we called them coming attractions or previews.
We called them previews because I remember, if you remember, since we made that Seinfeld reference, in Seinfeld, I mean, they're running. It's like the last episode of Seinfeld, and they're like, previews, Jerry. Anyway, that was back in the day, but that's just what a lot of people used to call it, previews, because it was beforehand, and they're called trailers. They always have been called trailers because they used to be at the end. So that's just kind of an interesting, funny thing.
Well, they used to have review programs like Coming Attractions by, like with Siskel and Ebert and stuff like that, or, so we called them at home, in the home video, it'd say Coming Attractions or previews, even some theaters. But once I started working with Blockbuster Video and stuff, we'd get trailer tapes, and they're just tapes with a bunch of trailers. And I'm like, why do they call them trailers? And well, that makes sense.
So that was the first time you heard that term, was that?
Yeah, like 95, 96, somewhere in there. And I was like, okay. And I guess that's always been the industry standard. But you know how it goes. Something like, for instance, a hashtag is actually a pound, but we're a dumb culture, and so we refer to it as a hashtag, which doesn't make any sense, because what the hell's a hashtag? When I hear hash, I'm thinking of two things, either hash browns or the type you smoke, so that doesn't make any sense. But hey, that's the culture we live in. Everything's a thing, and everything is dumb, but
Well, we'll just rename it hashish tag?
Well, it's just weird, trailers. Well, for instance, we used to call widescreen letterbox. It's a letterbox format. That was just layman's terms. In the industry, it was always called widescreen, but you'd get the video like letterbox edition, sweet letterbox, because of a mailbox. But who since 1912 has called a mailbox a letterbox?
Yeah, it's
right.
Fun. It's funny how those terms just fly around and stay.
Some stay.
Some terms stick, some don't, and it makes you wonder too. Is it because of the internet that now? The industry finally they finally alerted us to that everybody knows that they're trailers, and they finally let us know that it's not letterbox and then it's widescreen, or did that just, I'm sure it just evolved.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you go to look up clothing stores in the phone book, it's still under apparel. Who since 1912 has used the term, I should like to go shop for some apparel today?
What type of apparel should I expect at the party coming up?
It's time to buy you some back to school apparel. So that, it's weird that some of those terms have stuck, and then some have always been there, but we had a more common name for it. Now it's reverted back to its true name, and some we've taken the name and given it something else completely that makes no sense. So, but I guess you couldn't it would sound weird if you were trying to hashtag something and you were pound something, pound Vestron video. That just sounds dirty, I guess. So
and you put pound in front of anything, and
it just sounds, yeah.